Lesson 17, topic 17b, configure browser security. There are a selection of browser and installation that you can use, but again, as we have talked about this before, you should always use trusted sources. Major browser vendors are, well, Google Chrome, Opera, Mozilla Firefox, Microsoft Edge, and Apple Safari, for example. And Windows comes with Microsoft Edge, which is already there. If you want to use Google Chrome, you have to install it. So I would say that Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome is by far the most popular. But anyway, if you're gonna download, let's say Google Chrome or Opera, make sure that you or Mozilla Firefox that you download it from the respective source using the app stores or using the Google website. So don't you ever download or install any browser or any software for that matter from untrusted sites. That's the key point over here. And as we have said, when you download any software, you can use a hash-based checksum or signatures to validate the integrity of the software. So every piece of software that a reputable company puts out there will give you a checksum or a hash so that you can compare that when you download it. When it comes to untrusted sources, there's a lot of software that you download that will come bundled with adware and all kinds of stuff. So you got to be careful when you do that. And those are referred to as potentially unwanted applications or PUAs. These are key terms that you need to understand for the A+. Browsers will allow you to install extension or plugins to extend the functionality, right? Um, an extension, it's basically a script that uses the browser application program interface or API to implement new or modified functionality. And you can download extension for almost anything. There's a lot of stuff. Some of them are really good. Other extensions may be malicious, so you got to be careful. Even though Google and Microsoft tried the best to make sure that when they allow this extension that they are legitimate. But again, gotta be cautious and do your due diligence and maybe investigate, do a Google search or a Bing search to find out if you're going to install any extension. A plugin is an executable designed to handle a specific type of object embedded on a web page, generally deprecated due to risk from vulnerabilities. So the plugins are deprecated. You know, the extensions they're still used out there. When it comes to apps, default search providers and themes, again. Got to be careful with, but there's a lot of apps and stuff that are legitimate that actually gives functionality. And as always, trusted versus untrusted sources. Okay, so it depends on where you download this plugin store, this marketplace. So Google has its own kind of like a store to download this plugin. Microsoft Edge the same. The problem is when you go outside of this untrusted sources to download this extension. But anyway, so again, if you're going to download an extension, make sure you go to the Chrome Web Store to download this web extension, and the same thing with Edge. And you'll find, again, as I said, a whole bunch of extensions that you can use for your to extend the capability of your browser. Very important aspect of security is that you connect to secure places and that you validate the certificate of those sites. So the transport layer security, or TLS, right, is a way to for a website to be encrypted. So when you go into your browser to, let's say, the CompTIA website, you can verify if you're actually on the CompTIA website, right? So on any website, if you go to and click on this little lock over here, a Windows will pop up, and then if you go to more information, but anyway, so if you verify the cert, so you're probably fine. That means that this is the CompTIA legitimate site. Now remember, any a criminal could set up a website that looks like they are CompTIA to trick students into signing in and maybe providing confidential information. So this is what TLS and the digital certificates actually help with. So and one way again, it's if you look at this HTTPS browser validation. So if you look at the HTTPS, you will see that S. That's what the S mean. That's what the TLS is. If there is no S at the end of that protocol, then that means that it's not secure. So again, you look at that padlock icon as we have pointed out over here, and it's just high assurance certificate, basically meaning that it comes from legitimate users. And so they use what is called a trusted root certificate update. Again, so these sites have this root certificate that validate the authenticity of those pages. Windows Update the same thing. Okay, so that means that when you're downloading Windows Update, you want to make sure that you are on the right place. Then this is the way that this is done. Okay, very important to verify, right, that the website that we are running have a legitimate certificate. Actually, if you go to Chrome and any browser, if you are on a site and it's not the legitimate site, or let's say, for example, that these certificates have to be updated on a yearly basis. If CompTIA, for whatever reason, forget to update their certificate, once you go to the CompTIA site, the browser won't trust that site anymore, and you get a warning, say, hey, there is a problem with the certificate. If you get a warning like that, then you gotta be cautious, okay, and see what's going on there. Browser privacy settings. You can set what's called the site privacy and the content controls, where you can work with the cookie policy and the tracking protection. As we know, a cookie it's a little text file that tracks your behavior. Um, Everywhere you go nowadays, if you look at, let's say, if you're planning a trip and you look any trip information now, wherever you go, Google or Edge, they will give you all these things about trip. They follow you, and that's through the use of cookie, right? So you could either allow or you could block the use of those cookies. Now, some cookies are good, or in generally the intent of a cookie is a good thing, so that the owner of the website know your preferences, and then they give you more of that stuff. So that good. But again, this can be used also by malicious users, and to track your behavior, and also even to steal information. There are a lot of attacks that are based on cookies. So there is a way in those browsers to also you could either block or allow those cookies. Okay, and there are also a lot of programs out there that allow you to. They're called ad blockers. Okay, the where you can basically disable or block all those ads. Now you got to be careful with this, because there are a lot of programs that are advertised as ad blockers, but then they have their own problems of themselves, right? So they will the criminals will trick you into thinking that, oh yes, I'm downloading this, but then they will bundle that with a whole bunch of other programs, a spyware that are even worse than the ad blockers. So you got to be careful with that kind of stuff. When it comes to the browser cache, every web page that you visit is cached in your computer, and sometimes clearing that cache and browsing data, it's really good. Especially because nowadays we cache everything, including the username and passwords, the data that we, sites that we visit, which is really dangerous, because if your computer get compromised and you cache all that information, then obviously, that could put you into your computer in danger. Privacy and incognito browsing. So let's say, for example, that you are connected to your Gmail account and you have another Gmail account that you want to check. You won't be able to connect with in the same browser, or even if you open other windows. In that case, you have to open what is called a private or incognito. And one of the things about private incognito is that it won't save anything. It won't use cookies, so your computer cannot be tracked. So at least that's what Google and Microsoft have claimed, right? That our privacy is protected when you are incognito. That's not completely true. It's not that we are completely private, but at least using incognito browsing mode is a lot easier than, in other words, it's a lot safer than not using any of those modes. And we'll do some demos with that later on. So that's it for topic B of this lesson. We talked about browser security. We talked about browser selection and installation, whatever browser you're going to be using. So Windows comes with Edge already installed, but you may download Firefox and or Chrome. Just important as any other software, make sure that you download that from the legitimate site. If you cannot download Google Chrome, make sure you download that from Google or the Google Store, right? The Apple Play Store. Browser extensions and plugins, the same thing. Make sure that you go to the legitimate site, reputable site. Do not download extensions and plugins from any other sites. That if you're going to download, let's say, a Google extension, make sure that you download it from directly from Google. And then the same thing goes for um, Microsoft Edge. There are many settings that we can configure in a browser, like for example, the cookie. We can block, we can configure the cookies that only certain sites can follow us and that kind of stuff. So that can be done also within the browser. We also talked about the importance of secure connections and valid certificates. So if we go to any site, we can check whether that the legitimate of that site and that site uses a secure connection, especially if we are going to enter confidential information, like if on a website like Amazon, for example. If we're going to buy something, let's make sure that we are actually in the Amazon store and that we are not in a site that claims to be Amazon, right? Also, we can configure again the browser privacy settings, or we can even use an incognito window to navigate. Let's say that we want to go to a site that we want to stay anonymous. We don't want to leave any tracks on our computer. That's when you would use some of those settings there. Okay, so for this objective, please complete the assisted lab, configure browser security, where you will configure privacy settings for the Microsoft Edge browser.